What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the TBW podcast, Talkin TBW, the place where we sit down with the people who helped build Tennessee backyard wrestling and hear the stories behind the moments you remember and the ones you've never heard before. Before we get started, I want to share something kind of cool. I've actually never had the chance to meet today's guest before until we've become face-to-face here. But he caught wind of the podcast, reached out through some of the TBW higher-ups because he wanted to come on the show. And knowing what I already knew about this individual and everything he's contributed to the company over the years, I was absolutely elated to have him on the show. So I definitely agreed immediately. So today's guest is someone who's left his mark on the company in more ways than one, whether it's capturing championship gold as a former tag team champion or a two-time hardcore champion, serving as the right-hand man of Atomic Titan, or even stepping up as interim general manager most recently. This person has been a major part of TBW's history, hopefully going forward as well. But over the last several months, one question has kind of continued to come up is, where has this individual been? Tonight, we're getting some of those answers. We'll talk about what's led to his time away from the company, what's been keeping him on the sidelines, and whether this is simply a chapter closing or the beginning of another one. If a return is in his future, what does that look like? Is there unfinished business, more championships to chase, or more history to make? We'll also take a trip through his career from championship victories and unforgettable moments to the challenges, rivalries, and memories that help define who this person is inside of the company and in the ring himself. So whether you followed him from day one or you're just getting to know the man behind the name, you're in the right place. This is the story and the new beginning, continued hopefully, for the Black Fox Jacob Young. Without further ado, welcome. How are we doing today, Mr. Young?
I'm doing all right.
Awesome. Definitely what we like to hear, that you're doing all right. And as kind of addressed there in the opening, we've never really met before. We've texted the last couple of days, and we've met face-to-face here tonight. But I do want to ask, who is Jacob Young? Who is Jacob Young? What makes you be Jacob Young? What makes you tick, and what makes you continue to be Jacob Young?
You see, most people don't know this story. I told it before when I first joined. I started off on a trampoline. 18 years old. Didn't have a name, didn't have a style, didn't have anything. Jacob Young was born in a company that no longer exists, but he was always with me. Even before I started on a trampoline, he was always here. As a kid, I would, as everyone does, go through struggles, and I would need something and need someone to rely on, someone that I could talk to, someone that understood what I was going through. And I didn't realize it at first, and started talking to myself, imaginary friends. When you're a kid, that stuff happens. You get older, it fades away, it leaves your brain. But does it ever truly go away?
That's definitely a question to be answered.
You're muted.
Thank you, thank you, thank you for catching that for me. I'm having some technical
Mm,
difficulties, so bear with me.
no
Um,
problem.
but as I was going to say, I know you've kind of talked about how you have those voices and things that have kind of went on through your life. Is that kind of where the Black Fox came from, or is that just something you kind of created just for the world of wrestling?
What's strange is Jacob Young is what I created for wrestling. Um, I started off as Jacob Anderson, and it didn't never really feel right. I was not keen to the name. I never wanted to be an Anderson. Really, like the Andersons in regular wrestling are huge names. That's a hard moniker to live up to. So I was like, what fits better? And like I said before, the name Young has always been there. When I was in the backyard trampoline company, Young, my friend at the time was like, "Hey, what about Young? What do you think of that?" And I was like, "Dude, that's awesome. That could work. I could use that." And then I joined TBW. They suggested Anderson. I just kind of went with the flow and was like, "Yeah." And then when I got the opportunity to change my last name, I struggled for a couple weeks and it's like, I don't know if they're gonna like it. I don't know if they'll think it's good enough. And then I was like, I'm being young. I was like, I got it. I was like, it's who I was when I started. It's who I want to be when I finish.
Okay.
The Black Fox thing, it came to me not even in a match. Like I think I was at home and I was like, how can I up the ante of what I'm going into? Because at the time I was facing the hardcore badass Jay Wild. And I had beat him once or twice here and there in like a quick fashion. And the rivalry sparked something in me that I had forgotten about. When I looked at him at the time, all I could see was anger and hate and pain that he would just constantly cause me. So it pushed me and it pushed me. And you see, the darkness never truly leaves your head and never truly lets itself go. So thus the Black Fox.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, you kind of start touching base on it a little bit there. I feel like you debuted with the company. Was it around season 5, season 4, somewhere in that range?
I think it was season 5. Don't know the exact episode. I think it was like 96, 95, somewhere in there.
Okay, and I know around that time you kind of came in as a tag team wrestler. I know you kind of accomplished several things you wanted to do there. You kind of became a tag team champion. You kind of became a tag team star. But was that kind of the goal at the time, or were you wanting to transition into being a single star? Where take me through that kind of what led you to go from tag team to singles?
I think it was the Dynasty of Silence. I think that's who it was we were facing. Um, and like I said, when I came in, they needed at the time they needed a tag team body because they didn't necessarily agree with the methods of the Dynasty of Silence. A little bit behind the scenes, but it was just one person in that group and not the whole group. That was a bad seed. But I mean, I didn't really care. I was just there to wrestle and have fun and make friends, and do work because that's what I love to do. I, as I said, I was into wrestling when I was really young. I always watched it. I always loved it. Um, my former friend. got me into trampoline wrestling at 18, like I said, and immediately I knew that's what I wanted to be. I knew that's what I wanted to do. I didn't care if it was backyard. I didn't care if it was trampoline. I wanted to be a wrestler.
Sure. And it
So,
definitely sounds like you've had several years to kind of make that happen and hopefully continue to do so for the future. But that does kind of bring me to a point of being in a company as long as you have, you kind of experience a lot of things, ups, downs, and everything in between. One thing I want to ask is what's some of your favorite matches you would have had during that time frame? Because from what I went back and watched, you had a lot of stuff. You kind of touched a little bit on, some matches there with Jay Wild, who honestly phenomenal athlete. And in my opinion, like I've kind of said before, I feel like he's a workhorse of the company, if not the workhorse of the company. But once some matches that you would have had around that time frame that kind of got you going, like, hey, I could really do this here. This is where I'm supposed to be.
even though he's my best rival, um, Jay Wild is my best rival. I hate to give him credit, give him roses, but he's good at what he does, and he's a wrestler. I've had a few matches. One of my first matches, which was actually a really great match, was against Buzzsaw Billy, um, Hall of Famer of TBW. I had a match with Jackson Cole, no longer with the company. I've had matches with like Andrew Clay. I've had matches with Fat Asian, or as he's known now, High Roller, Robbie Andrews. My first match with Gage Flair was episode 123. It was a really fast match. I went into it kind of still scared because I was still, breaking on the scene. I hadn't really got my feet wet. I've had a couple matches against a couple of people that weren't really, they were good in the ring, but they weren't Gage Flair. And I don't even think I started facing, no, I started, my first match with Jay Wild was 127. So I didn't start facing him until after I had already faced Gage Flair. So, and he, of course, hadn't entered the company until after I had faced Gage Flair, I don't think, if I remember correctly. I had wrestled Titan. I won with a roll up. That was episode 122. Me and him had a match.
And I think that had to be important for your career at that point in time, just defeating Totten at all. He's been such a staple of the company since day one. I mean, I know we had him on here last week, and he likes to talk about himself, but let's be honest, there's a reason for that. He's been here as long as he has, and he's had the longevity that he's had for a reason. Like it doesn't just happen out there. The guy knows what he's doing. So whether it be a clean roll up, whether it be disqualification, whether it be just pulling off a huge upset, beating him at any point in your career is very, very big. So I think hats off to you for that one for sure. The other thing too, like you kind of started talking about Gage there a little bit, and I mean we have to give him his credit there as well. Gage does things that we don't, has done things with the company that we have not seen him do before, or see people do before, I guess I should say. He moves in ways that he should not be able to move. He talks in ways that he should not be able to talk, and everything just comes so natural to him. So in a way, for me, I would wonder, do you feel like that maybe kind of got you ready or prepared to compete with somebody like Jay Wild, who's gonna, I mean, when you're in there with him, you're gonna work your ass off. Do you think kind of learning some of the TBW ways with Gage got you ready for him?
Like I said, it was more of a real fast match. It didn't really even last but like 15, maybe not even that. I think it lasted like 10 seconds. I think he had the pedigree on me and won the match. Pretty sure.
Sure. And I think I remember seeing that one. For me, which I'm an outsider looking in, of course, but for me, I would almost imagine that having him there for 10 seconds or 10 minutes, you're going to learn so much just being around him.
Oh, absolutely. Because I think, and uh, not to break the fourth wall, but I'm going to break the fourth wall because I can't. I think after the match, he's like, "You could do so much better than what you just did. I want you to work on yourself, and we're going to do this again." And we did eventually.
Sure. Yeah, and I think no matter where he's been at with the company over the years, he's kind of been that one where whether he liked you, whether he loved you, whether he hated you, it didn't matter. He would tell people all the time. I mean, you'd see it with Manny Cobra in the past where it'd be like, hey, like, I appreciate what you've done and what you can do. So, like, keep getting better, keep improving. And so I think that's a big thing to kind of even look at. If he's going to pull you to the side at any point, even though I haven't really had the pleasure of talking to him face to face or one on one, just as how we were doing here, I kind of have gathered enough just knowing what I know about him that he's not going to give you comments like that and not mean what he's saying. He's not going to say something to you he doesn't mean. So I definitely think that you should take that as a feather in your own cap as far as like where you were at that point in your career and kind of what would happen for the foreseeable future as well, of course.
Yeah.
Then I kind of wonder. We've talked about it a little bit here tonight. You've mentioned it to me even before we went live on the air here. You won the tag titles, but then you kind of transitioned over into winning the Hardcore Championship, which was a nice looking belt, red strap with a really shining gold plates. The hardcore division at that time, the hardcore division at that time, like when you look back at those episodes, was like a main focal point. And so to me, that would show in trust from TBW higher ups like Matthew Joseph and such to trust you to carry the show in any form or fashion, like have something on the card that matters so much. So if that mattered to the company so much, what did the Hardcore Championship mean to you for winning it at that time?
I'm pretty sure. I'll double check my notes. Took a little note session.
Sure, absolutely.
Earlier. At the time, me and Jay Wild were in that rivalry, and he beat me at Stampede in the bull rope match, and I beat him at Scars and Stripes in the first blood match. And that was sort of the beginning of the Black Fox. I had mentioned it on episode 129 because he had pushed me to my break. Everything I could think of, he broke into the house. Yeah, he beat me up in the ring, drug a ref out in the ring, kicked me in the head. Pretty much. And then, so here comes Summer Bash. Sorry, did not know how to say that word. Apparently,
You're okay. You're okay. No worries.
Here comes Summer Bash, and we get in the match, and at one point or another, I just felt it. I was flowing in the state of mind. I was like, I'm giving this my all, or I'm going out on a stretcher. I was like, I'm not leaving this ring without that belt. And that's what it means to me. Like once I have something that I want, something that I need, something that I have always felt a pull towards, I can't let it go. And I couldn't let it go. And when I held that belt up after the first time winning it, I felt like I was on Everest.
Well, and honestly, for intents and purposes, for what it's worth, I mean, I've went back even recently and started watching some of the earlier season stuff. And I remember I came across that match probably about 2 weeks ago, to be honest with you. And I remember like watching, I was like, I mean, one, you look completely different back then. But I remember seeing, I was like, wow, not only does he look different, like he just, I guess you say, moves so flawlessly through this type of match. Like you could tell it was like your home. You know what I mean? Like this is what this guy's meant to do, and he does it so well. And I think that really that kind of helped transition or translate, I guess I should say, with Jay Wild in the sense that where I've mentioned, I feel like he's a workhorse. He's willing to take those chair shots and stuff just as much as you are. And when you kind of have two people who are both willing to kind of push their body probably beyond their limits and even further, that makes that title mean that much more. And for the both of you, for that matter. But she also created the whole story as well. Whether you were trying to do the story or not, you created that story on screen. And I think that's important to remember as well.
Absolutely. We both gave it our all, and that was my night.
Absolutely. And I know like you held on to the title for a while after that, and then you went. I know you won it back, and then you ended up going into the feud with Atomic Titan at that point in time as where he became the hardcore king, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
Did it? What was it like? Because obviously, Titan and Jay Wild both have like a different style. Even if they're both wrestling hardcore or not, they have a different style as far as how they wrestle. What was it like comparatively going from Jay Wild to Titan in a hardcore setting?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, I think me and Titan had already locked it up once by then. Again, I had got the victory over him via roll up, and then I won the hardcore championship from Jay Wild, and then I had to vacate it later on down the road due to some personal issues that I was going through at the time. And then I won it back. And then I lost it again. and then he just kind of caught me in a bad time, really. Like, and it wasn't Titan's fault. I was just trying to pull his strings and get him to shed that American Dragon act, because we all knew it wouldn't last forever.
So it's almost like you felt like, not to cut you off there, of course. It almost feels like maybe you thought at that point in time there's so much more that Titan could have been doing that you wanted to pull that out of him, even if he wasn't necessarily your favorite person, or he may have been your favorite person, who knows. But it almost feels like you thought he could achieve even more than what he was doing, whether it be winning championships or just creating this on-screen presence that we all know him for at that point in time. Am I kind of reading you correctly there?
Yeah, I think that he was himself, even though he wouldn't admit it. I think he himself was struggling because he wasn't, I don't know, to me, because I was watching the shows and I watched back and stuff, and I would go through and examine. So this is my personal opinion. I don't know
Sure.
how he feels about it. But to me, it just felt like he was still losing, but he was trying to build something that wasn't there. And I'd always I watched the show in the past, and I've seen how, he was always cocky and arrogant. He just looked more confident in the ring.
Mm.
But when he was losing and when he was doing the American Dragon stuff, he just didn't look as confident in the ring. It's like he was struggling with himself. So I wanted to set him free.
Do you think that that's something you try to do with about anybody you step into the ring with, of pulling out the best in anyone?
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Wonderful. And the thing is that I think about with that is you guys kind of have that established history that you go several years back, probably both good and bad. Because because obviously, like you said, you wanted to kind of pull more out of him and kind of make him be more of who you know that he is and who he probably deep down wanted to be. So, not to necessarily skip forward a few years, but you fast forward to last season, and while he was running as a general manager, you were kind of introduced as being his right hand man, like an assistant to the GM, if you will. Do you think when higher ups, whether it be Matthew Joseph or whoever, kind of came to you and said, "Hey, like you're going to be his right hand man at this point," did that kind of influence you being so willing to do so, or were you just like, "Hey, it's just for the show"?
No, I as much as I despise him, um, during and at the same time want him to be who he is. When the whole interim general manager thing came to me, at first I didn't know how to feel about it because I was like, oh, I felt like that story was over. He beat me fair and square. I didn't have nothing. He embraced what I wanted him to be. He was a great hardcore champion for the run that he had. And I felt like he really was actually back to where he was and was embracing, you know, even though it was something different for him and something new for him, he was embracing it. And he was like, I could tell in his matches, I'd watch and he'd be more confident in the ring. He'd be like, I'm the hardcore king, you can't fuck with me. Um, so skip forward, like you said, and he wins the GM spot over Joshua Allen, and he starts the whole thing with Ledger, and you could start he started back on that slope of like he wasn't wrestling and he was doing promos, but they were starting to slack, and I was like, he needs that force, he needs that person to be like, even though he doesn't want me to, I'll lift you up, I'll make you shine, get your butt up there. Which is crazy because he's been, like you said, he's been a pillar for so long, and I what do I know? I'm
Sure.
a backyard wrestler from a trampoline who'd never been on a, a stage like TBW before and didn't know right from wrong, and all I did was embrace my character, and I still will embrace my character till it stops, till the train dies, and
Did
it's
that,
just
knowing kind of, I guess, where you've had that history with him in the past, we saw a couple of times, like whenever, because he primarily feuded with Ledger Shade last year, who I think I've said here on last week's episode, and I'll always say it. Ledger Shade to me is the greatest backyard wrestler we've ever seen. And I don't think anything will ever change my mind on that. And if it does, it's going to take a very, very good athlete. But that being said, they mesh so well together during the feud, and that's great because it translates to showing like, hey, we have the best possible people that you could have here. And the reason why I mention that is because I feel like that for me made it kind of translate to, I may not agree with this guy's ways. I may kind of think that he's a little too full of himself, too arrogant. He thinks he controls me, but I still I'm here to do a job, and that's to take care of him from a day-to-day operation standpoint. We'd see push him out there in the wheelchair. As I was kind of starting to touch there with the Ledger feud, you see Ledger at one point go to reach to his wheelchair, and we see you grab towards him and basically tell him like, "Hey, don't even think about it." And so I guess that to me kind of tells me like, even if you don't necessarily like the position you're in or agree with the person you're having to kind of take care of or guide here, that you're still going to do what's asked of you to kind of make sure that you are successful in your job.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Um, I had a lot of fun as interim general manager, as much as I wanted to pull my hair out, but it was a lot of fun. It gave me more access to see behind the curtains than anything. And it helped me realize that I still needed work. So, in the sense of like being able to help him helped me, which is crazy. Don't tell him I
Absolutely.
said that, even though it's live.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure he'll love to hear that. But that's the thing. Like, he helps you probably just because he's been around forever and a day. I mean, let's just call it what it is. He's, again, like you said, a pillar of the company. He's been there for forever and a day. And so I think that's where, for me, like, if I was involved more as an on-screen standpoint, as far as like the product that you put in the ring and kind of the show that we see go on, whether it be Rampage or the pay-per-views, he's there every day, busting his ass just as much as the next person. And we may hate to admit that, but it's the truth. And so I think when you can get that firsthand experience the way that you were with him, that only has to set you up for success in the future, no matter how long you may be working underneath him or not. Now I know once we kind of navigated through the rest of that season and into a season finale last year, he had the match with Ledger where he lost. So because of the fact that he lost, he was no longer the general manager. So that kind of gave you at the point the ball to take it and kind of run with it and become, the general manager in your own respect going into this current season. How did they go about kind of presenting it to you? Because I know Matthew Joseph makes all these calls and stuff like that. How did he come to you and say, like, hey, like, Titan's out, but we still want you to kind of run this ship for now?
It's kind of like what you just said. He literally was like, "Hey, man." He just called me on the blue and was like, "Hey, man, how you feel about this?" And I was like, as much as I didn't didn't slash slash did like working for and under Titan, I was like, this is me still being able to help the show. So I'm gonna do it. It's all I
Sure.
ever want to do. I always want to help the show.
And do you think, like, where you'd spent the whole previous basically year following side by side with Titan, that kind of led you into what you would have been doing for this season as a general manager before Johnny J took over?
Yeah, yeah.
I guess another question that I would kind of wonder here, and I know I didn't necessarily break this down for you beforehand, but I think in every sport, in every organization, in everything, whether it be backyard wrestling, indie wrestling, the majors as far as WWE, AEW, TNA, you name it, New Japan, every company has a Mount Rushmore. So I haven't asked this question to you, and it's because I kind of wanted to get you, as far as here in the moment, as honest of an answer as possible. If you had to pick a Mount Rushmore for TBW, who would it be?
That's a hard question. Because the typical answers are like, oh, it's Gage Flair, or oh, it's Ledger, and don't get me wrong, that boy can fucking work.
Hmm.
Um,
I can give you mine if you'd like to, and we can kind of compare if you want to go that route.
it's crazy because he's not been there as long. And maybe it's biased because he he even though he brought the darkest part of me out, he generally made me work the hardest I've worked um to win every match that I've ever been in with the men. and that's Jay Wild.
Okay.
Now I would love. I've unfortunately never really got to step in the ring with Ledger. We've had a couple of. I'll give you a behind the scene. We've had a couple of training sessions, and again, that boy can fucking work. And I think if I didn't have the bias of being in so many matches with Jay Wild, that Ledger would be my next top of the top of the mountain, and
Sure.
then Gage, and then hell, even Titan.
Okay. Okay. We have a very, very similar Mount Rushmore. First one, I think it's kind of a given just because I kind of established my feelings on him already. Ledger Shade, have to put him there. Have to. When you see where he started in the earlier seasons, kind of around the time he did, maybe a little bit sooner, but pretty close to that same time frame. And you see the organic character growth from, hey, I'm the Joker, to hey, I'm back. You know, like I took my year off or so. I kind of left and came back just as good, if not better, than he was, to what he is now, where he doesn't even run with the championship at this point. But you still sit there and you look at him, and to me, he's the best. Like he doesn't even need the championship to prove that he's that good. Like you said, he can work. I've seen him work, smaller people within TBW, and I've seen him work people who are twice his size. And it's just like he can literally, I can't even talk right tonight. He can do anything with anybody and tell a story the whole time as well.
For sure.
I would put Gage up there as well. We kind of talked some on that earlier and before camera and on camera as well. Gage just does so many things so well. It's so smooth. We've seen him be a man of the people. We've seen him be a man against the people, and that's the thing. He kind of marches to the beat of his own drum. Like you can like hear him talk. Close your eyes and just listen to him talk, and you would almost think you're listening to Ric Flair talk. He's just that good. But then you just watch how again he tells the stories, and he elevates anything that he touches, whether it be wrestling somebody else in the ring, whether it be the product as a whole, whether it be championships that he holds. It once he's done with it, it's improved, and I think that's a very telling about how good anybody is in the ring. My third one on here, and these aren't necessarily in any order per se, but the third one I've got listed on there is, as much as I hate to give him credit, would be Atomic Titan. He has one of those faces. You want to smack him. You want to smack him. You want to pop him right there in the mouth, and you want him to leave knowing what your hand tastes like. But he knows that, and he doesn't care. He comes out there and he tells you he's the best, and he knows he's the best, and you're not going to change his mind on that. And again, another one that kind of marches to the beat of his own drum, but he shows you exactly where he stands, and he kind of tells you, hey, I'm going to beat you. And more often than not, he does. He kind of had a struggle there for a couple of years where he kind of went on a losing streak, and he didn't really hold any championships or anything. And that definitely is something that to consider recently, but 7-time world champion within the company, that alone's got to put you on that list. I don't know if you agree with that part, but that alone to me puts you on that list. And then fourth, it's really hard because I consider Jay Wild such a workhorse. I go with Josh Allen myself. I go with Josh Allen because he's been able to reinvent himself anytime he's needed to. He's made himself be Josh Allen. He's been the Painmaker. He is that recognizable heart and soul of TBW. Even though he's not really around on screen other than to be Painmaker, he is the heart and soul of the company. And I think he has been since day one. So
I agree with that, yeah.
Yeah, and that's hard because, like I said, it's Jay Wild's one out there that I don't think But with those four that I have, plus the J Wild that you mentioned, I think that there's like a rotating five of those that you can have listed at any one point in time would be considered like a top person, the top person, or could kind of carry the company if they needed to.
Sure.
We've spent a good 40, 45 minutes here talking. Kind of glad I've got some of your insight on a lot of that stuff. So I don't necessarily have too much more to ask you here, but there is a couple things I would kind of like to ask you. Sometimes I'm here to ask questions that are both fun to learn about, and there's history to learn. There's cool things to kind of get people's insights, both whether it be behind the scenes or whether it be face to face, whatever. I guess the questions that I would have for you here would be, where have you been and what's kept you out for so long? I know we kind of started talking about it, and you were kind of transitioning into being the general manager, at least for the season on your own. But then it was kind of like you just disappeared. Like what made it go to where you went from being like, hey, the on-screen authority figure, to you're not around? Like what took you off screen and what's kept you out this long? As you answer here, I'm going to mute myself just so that way there's no background noise. I kind of want to let you have the stage to kind of address that yourself if you would like to.
Yeah. A lot of people don't really know. Some people do know. Just been going through some medical issues. It's hard to put into words. Like when you're told, hey, if you keep doing the thing that you're doing, you could probably paralyze yourself. Please stop doing it. You don't wanna. So I got told by a doctor that I have degenerative disc disease. Um, so even for me to get up and walk and exercise is hard. Um, I also ran into a car issue. Um, where I just didn't have transportation to be on the show every week. Um, so I reached out to the higher ups and was like, "Hey, can you find somebody to take over, fill the spot for me? I don't want to not be on screen, and I don't want to not be there. But if I can't be there, it's better if you guys find that person who can step in and can sort of fill in the role, at least until I start feeling better, and maybe I can come out to some more shows. Just get into a better physical shape, better mental state. Because once your body's hurt and you're struggling with pain, uh, especially in like your back or your side or wherever, um, it also affects your mental state. A lot of people don't know that two are the same. If you're battling physically, you're battling mentally, and it really sucks. Um, Especially with somebody like me, it's a little bit harder. I do have a medical diagnosed disease, a mental disease. Don't really have to say the name. Don't want to say the name. Um, but uh, it's just hard. So I just deal with both situations and take it day by day. And if hopefully eventually, once I get better physically, I can get better mentally and I can start making shows again. And if it's not as the general manager, and even if it's just helping Johnny J out, he's doing a great job. I've watched the show. He's doing a great job. So even if it's just as his assistant or just helping him out backstage and uh, you know, running, running the show behind the scenes, maybe helping out back there. And even if you don't see me, you know, I might be helping. Mhm.
Sure, sure. I know you kind of talked about, and well, let me first say, like, we definitely all want the best for you, whether it be me, the people you see day by day, or whether it be the fans that we have watching both on YouTube, Rampage, or pay per views, or even kind of hanging out with us here tonight. We've got some people in the comments, and it looks like from the viewers are kind of in and out. We definitely want the best for you. So, prayers, good vibes, anything that we can think of towards you. So definitely hope for a speedy recovery on everything. I did want to ask, you kind of said, kind of talking to me earlier beforehand, kind of when you realized you were kind of hurt and kind of what was going on at that point in time. Obviously, there's certain stuff you don't want to touch on there, of course, but what moment was it that you realized that you may be starting to get hurt? Was it like recently, or was it kind of a little ways back?
The original time that I got hurt, I don't think I ever took the time to actually sit down and recover. The bad thing about uh, the 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 bad thing about my brain is that I love to do what I do. I love to wrestle. I love to promo. I love to be out there for the fans. The hardest thing for a wrestler to realize is, hey, slow down, heal yourself, take care of yourself, or you're not going to be able to do this. So I think that I pushed myself faster than I should have when I originally got hurt. And then it increased and increased and increased. And then I was like, oh, it hurts to stand up and go to the bathroom, which is like 5 feet away. Um, Wear and tear, unfortunately.
Do you do you think part of that may have kind of been an end result of where you worked all those hardcore matches for so long for the company?
mm, uh, Not really. I think it's just more because even taking like regular bumps is hard. Like people sit there and you can see in the comments all day and say wrestling is fake. But until you get in that freaking ring and you take a bump, I don't want to hear crap. Shut your mouth, be quiet, sit down and watch.
Absolutely.
Um, because that stuff hurts.
Sure. Sure. Absolutely. It's one of those things I think is one of the most underappreciated industries kind of really that exists today. Like you said, anybody can sit there, say it's fake, say it doesn't hurt, say they could do it. Well, until you kind of step between the ropes, I don't think you can. Um, it doesn't matter if it looks good to you, if it feels good, if it's entertaining or not. Until you step between those ropes, you can't honestly know what it feels like. You can't honestly know what all goes into it. The last thing I kind of think I want to kind of touch up on with you here. Did you watch the most recent episode of Rampage, the episode 195, the 10,000 subscriber special?
Oh yeah, 10K scrubber, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and again, hey, hats off to everybody. You played a factor in that as well, my friend. So thank you for being there for as long as you have. Um, we saw at the end of we had a main event between Jay Wild and Chaotic, and normally I would throw more questions up here, but this is probably the only one I'm going to throw up on the screen right here. Let me get it to go. If it'll cooperate with me. There we go. Maybe. Kind of seems like technical. There we go. Will Chaotic finally win a championship? And the reason I bring that question up here, we know he's kind of had a history with the TriStar Championship, a season or two ago. But we saw at the end of 195, he has this awesome match with Jay Wild that kind of ends in like a double pinfall of sorts, a double fall, I guess you should say. What do you think they should do with that situation going forward, going into Summer Bash? Because we need a challenger for Jay Kolsch.
Well, if I were still the intern general manager, I'd look Jay Wild dead in his face. I'd tell him, Suck it up, Buttercup. It's gonna be a triple threat Summer Bash. You, J. Kolsch, and Chaotic, and let the cards lie where they may. The best man win.
Absolutely. I think that's a triple threat we'd all welcome as well. You've got Chaotic, who, for all intents and purposes, is this young gun. He's an up and comer. He's been around for several years, but it seems like he needs something to get him over that hump. In a way, I would compare it to like a Daniel Bryan type of thing, Bryan Danielson, whatever you want to call him. He's right there at the peak. There's so much, tons of potential that he just needs something to kind of get him over that edge. And I feel like once he gets over that hump and wins his first like heavyweight championship, I think what we're going to see from him is kind of crazy going forward because I feel like it's just like a I don't even know what you compare it to. I just honestly feel like you're going to see him explode and take off, and I think you'll really see what he can do after that because the chaotic flow, for one of my favorite moods from TBW. It's just the way he's able to do that, like corkscrew senton off the top. It's phenomenal. But I want to see him kind of achieve his potential. So I think you throw that into the mixture with you've got Jay Kolsch, who ended Gage Flair, who potentially has ended Ledger. We'll kind of see where that goes from here. But even if he doesn't end Ledger, he kind of defeated who would be like Mr. Anniversary in a sense. The guy's 5 anniversary main events. We can't really argue with that. And again, we know his body of work. Jay Kolsch was one who defeated all of that. So I think that's a fun factor to have into place. And then the third and kind of final piece, if we did a triple threat, would be Jay Wild, as you had talked about. Workhorse, again, workhorse. He's there day in and day out. You know, he had a strong finish to Anniversary. He won this hardcore, I guess you should say, death match against 2 other competitors that kind of had between Dustin Alexander and Cameron Cage. Sorry, I'm awful with names, but you had Cameron Cage, you had Dustin Alexander, who kind of had a pre-existing relationship that, I'll be honest, Jay Wild was not my pick. But he proved me wrong, and he proved I should have picked him. So if you come down to that triple threat and that's what happens, then who do you go with from there? You know what I mean? Who do we think would win at that point? And I don't necessarily expect you to answer that. It's just I think that's something we would all have to think about.
Yeah, it's hard because you got I'll give my not really opinion on who would win, but I'd give my like diagnosis of the match.
Mm-hmm.
You got like Jay Kolsch. He's young, he's brash, he's arrogant. He beat Gage Flair. He came in.
He'd be like a Shawn Michaels in his early years.
Yeah, he came in hot stuff, hot flesh, frying pan, sizzled, and he kicked off and got himself a good manager and is working hard. Then you got Chaotic, who, like you said, has been there for years. He's always been there. He's always had that, like, you could see it. You could see that there was just something. He needed something. He's had titles, and he's done great. He's a good wrestler. We've had a few matches. Me and him. He works really well in the ring. Like you said, the chaotic flow. That hurts, by the way. It's not fun to take.
I'm sure he would love to hear that as well.
But he's, in my eyes, he's like a dark horse in that match. And like, that's the underdog story, like you said. And then you have, of course, Jay Wild, workhorse, hard work, and fuck around to find out. This is his motto.
I mean, that's his moniker, absolutely. And honestly, I hope I never have to.
And again, the bias of working with that man and just knowing what he can do and how far he's willing to go to win a title is scary. So I couldn't pick, but I would book the triple threat in a heartbeat.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because you're adding so many elements into that. I mean, for what Jay Kolsch has done in such a short amount of time, you have to then sit there and question, like, would he eventually, not right now, of course, but would he eventually belong on that Mount Rushmore discussion?
Oh
Yes, it's
yeah,
early. I get all that, but I don't think he's been around TBW more than a couple years at this point. I could have missed something. I've not been following the product quite as long, but I think it's been about 2 years or so. I
something like
mean,
that.
yeah, like he's won the Intercontinental title, and I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, he beat Gage Flair for that championship as well. And it was during that process he kind of attracted the eyes of Charlie Seen, who in my opinion is the best talker that TBW has to offer today. You pair those two up together, you've got that, like you said, the brash, the arrogance, the I'm the guy now on screen with somebody who can talk as well as Charlie does. It's a perfect combination. But then you have the partnership, or former partnership, I guess I should say, with Chaotic and Jay, not Jay Kolsch, but Jay Wild. You have where they've had that pre-existing relationship in the family. You throw that all in one ring together, and it's like a pressure cooker. You're going to screw that top onto it. You're going to let it kind of marinate in there for a while, and after probably 15 or 20 minutes, maybe even longer, it's going to explode, and one's going to come out with that championship. And I think if that's what it comes down to, like, we don't know yet. We've still got 196 to go, but you just have so many elements to it that could just drive home this long term, like, lasting impact to the company, definitely for the rest of the season, for sure.
Sure. I'm gonna be watching.
Absolutely, absolutely. We'll do one more question here, and I think we'll wrap things up. As far as Chaotic goes, would ending his run, whether it be Chaotic or Jay Wild, of course, would ending his run talking about Jay Kolsch kill his momentum?
I don't think so. That's what's crazy because again, I've been watching, and he started off like I said. I think he was developmental, and Gage sort of took him under his wing, and then he turned around and retired Gage, sent him back, and he's got a great manager. He's got Charlie Seen. Um, he's got that mouthpiece now. I think it builds confidence. I don't think that taking away the belt would necessarily end his momentum. I think it would actually encourage him to work harder to get back to that, to get back and be like, yeah, I did it. And yeah, I can do it again. And yeah, I'm that guy. I'm the it factor. I'm the one. You want to doubt me? Doubt me. But I am it.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think he's done a really good job at that so far as well. His in ring body of work so far, just it speaks for him. Like, yeah, we get reminded by Charlie Seen every single time they're on there, but it speaks for himself. He doesn't need anybody to talk for him. So I think it'll be fun to see, no matter what route they decide to go. Johnny J has a tough decision to make after that main event from last week, but I'm with you. I think we should go there out of a triple threat. We'll just have to sit tight and watch the next episode and see where it goes from
Yeah.
there.
I might have to call up Johnny J and be like, hey, listen.
Hey, yeah, maybe you need to get in his ear a little bit and kind of give him some ideas. I think that's kind of all I had for the night. Is there anything else you kind of want to kind of discuss before we hop off here?
Just for the TBW universe and just for everybody out there that may be watching, keep supporting, keep liking, keep subscribing. I hope I can come back and see you around. I'll be watching.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, it has certainly been a pleasure. Definitely look forward to a continued possible appearances on the show in the future. I'm always open minded to that. If you ever want to hop on here and kind of just have more of a discussion or got things to get off your chest, I'm here for you. Love again the conversation. It's been nice meeting you and seeing, putting face to face and talk on here as well. So if there's nothing else, and I definitely think we've had a good night, let's go ahead and send her on home. Peace out, guys.